Promotional consideration paid for by the following: Clorets, fast-acting, breath-freshening gums and mints. Only Clorets has Actazole with chlorophyll. It gets rid of bad breath fast. Get set for radical action in these exciting home video games, featuring smooth animation and endless entertainment from Capcom USA. Rascals, bite-sized chewy candies, are here in intense fruit flavors. Get them before they get you.
The WWF, what the world is watching. Turn it on and rip the knob off.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Wrestling Memory Grenade. Now at episode 206, I am Ray Russell, and this is yet another special edition of the Grenade because we're going to have a guest on here in just a moment as we continue on the journey of July 1989 of the World Wrestling Federation. More TV. It just happens to be one of those months where we get 5 weekends of wrestling, and I'm looking forward to that as we cover week 2 here in the month of July. And in order to do that, going to bring on the special guest of the week. Is the one and only WrestleCopia's own resident Jesse Ventura, but not really because we don't want to get sued. But here he is, Mr. Matt Crowder. Welcome back to the program, man.
Thanks for having me, Ray. And like Jesse said in WrestleMania 1, Woodstock was to rock and roll what the Wrestling Memory Grenade is to wrestling.
I like that. I love it. Thank you, not Jesse. As this week, guys, we jump back into another week of July TV. I know Matt's went back and watched it himself, and so he's going to have some thoughts, I'm sure, some fun memories come back to both of us, no doubt about it, as we cover July 8th, 1989 WWF Superstars of Wrestling. And it is Superstars, taped back June the 6th, so we're about a month behind on the taping, but that's what we do back in the era. Madison, Wisconsin, Dane County Expo Center. Vince McMahon and your boy Jesse Ventura are on the call, as usual, as we head off to the opening bout involving the Superfly, who is back, versus Tom Stone. What do you remember of this run for the Superfly?
Well, I mean, this is, I think, you go back to the episodes of the Grenade when you go into WrestleMania 5. And just the very spaced out Superfly Snuka coming into the match and be the Garvin Bravo match. And it's just weird as an adult looking back on it. You know, as a kid, you're like, oh, cool, Snuka's back. Right. But I mean, this is, I think, where Snuka is just kind of finding his stride, but also he's just kind of there and he's still got the space. I mean, you cannot get around when he does like an insert promo or a promo. He just looks like he's out of his mind. And it's funny to look back on it as well. But to go back to the beginning, I absolutely love the Jesse Dolly Madison line, which I wish he would have, instead of the ice cream line, he should have used it as like the snack kick, because obviously he had Dolly Madison. And it's just like, it was tailor-made for it. But Jesse, you know, doing what Jesse does. But, you know, but the Fly overall, you know, just kind of getting his wings back. Let's just say that.
Yeah, he's going to need some wings because and he still does the beautiful Superfly dive, the splash, and you know he's still got the leapfrog and things of that nature. But watching him come to the ring, you talked about being spaced out visually with his facials and where his eyes are peeking into, but it just looked like he was beaten up. His body just looks terrible as he tries to walk to the ring. He just looks very broken down, and he's going to be around for years to come. So we got to think about that. As this match gets rolling, though, we get an insert poem from the Genius, who mocks Snuka receiving the latest hit, courtesy of the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. Talking about the Honky Tonk Man. So that feud coming to a house show near you. Stay tuned, guys. We also get a local voiceover. These were cool when I was a kid. We used to get them too. Howard Finkel announcing tickets for SummerSlam go on sale this Tuesday, July the 11th. Be there. Do you remember that growing up? Did you ever get the old Fink introduction where he would come in, cut in during the So as a kid, it was a double-edged sword for me, because on one end, it was cool. It was like, oh, they're promoting a Richfield Coliseum show. But at the other end, I wonder what Jesse and Vince are saying. Don't talk over Jesse and Vince.
Yeah, no, I mean, to me, it's basically in any market, you want to build up the show that's coming in, drum up attendance if, depending on wherever it is, whether it be Nashville, whether it be Florida, wherever they were going at the time. It was just one of those things that, it was always because you would get excited. You're like, oh, there's a show, we got to go. But yeah, for the most part, I'm with you. It's just like, Jesse and Vince, the byplay, even during the match, Jesse talking about cannibalism with Snuka's a family tree, and it's just in 2026 eyes, probably not the best thing, but at the same time, it's absolutely timeless. And
I think he says something like, you don't have to go too far back in his ancestors to find the cannibals there on the islands of Fiji. I thought Fiji was a very beautiful place, I was always taught, but apparently in Jesse's world, any South Pacific island is filled with cannibals. As the match begins, we get a crisscross spot. Snuka landing a crossbody early on. Now, Tom Stone immediately kicks free of that, but runs right into a patented Snuka chop. Then we get another leapfrog into yet another chop and a gentle backbreak. He kind of just lets Tom Stone down on his knee very gently. And I don't know if that was more to protect Stone or if Snuka just couldn't really bend to deliver the backbreaker, which is usually the setup, as is here, for the patented Superfly Splash signature, brother. Off the top rope, going to give Snuka the win quickly, 1 minute and 40 seconds. Superfly Splash, man. How was that not a thing of beauty?
Yeah, no, I mean, to me, I don't know how he consistently did it, but also he only did it on the big shows.
TV. On the TV.
Like, he wouldn't do it on the outside of the garden. And
you got the crossbody, yeah.
Yeah, but for the most part, if it was televised, you were seeing Snuka come off the top rope, or earlier in his career when there were cage matches, come off the cage, especially with Morocco and absolutely fantastic. Like one of the just seamless. There's some that looked like he killed the guy, but also that was his move, that was his shtick, and he hit it very well.
For as much as Jesse, quote unquote, buried Snuka, because that was Jesse's deal, he was the heel during the match, he really put Superfly over in the replay as being a phenomenal talent. And of course, Jesse, his career goes way back into the Portland area where he feuded with Snuka a good 14, 15 years before this. So Jesse's known the Superfly back when he was in his prime. Think about that for a minute when, Jesse was never in his prime, arguably, in the ring anyway, but Snuka. And what he was able to do way back when. I wish there was more footage of that time period. But we go off now to Update. And Mean Gene Okerlund talking about last week on the Brother Love show. It was Rick Martel cutting a nice promo, just minding his own business, when out comes that no good Tito Santana out there slapping Martel's manager, Slick. How dare you, Tito? And of course, Rick Martel doing what any great wrestler would do, protecting his manager, fighting back. I don't want to say attack. He was defending the honor of the Slickster. At least that's how I saw it anyway. Rick Martel throwing down with Tito Santana rolling all over the stage. And I felt like this was what they needed like 4 months ago. Where was this for the last? They split up and we really haven't got, they've been working on the house shows, but on TV they have given them basically zero time to further this story. So they give it to them now because we know they're going to be part of a 6-man at SummerSlam. They're still on the house shows, so you got to revitalize, rejuvenate the feud, so to speak, which seemingly never ends.
Yeah, no, this is a big what if for me because it's like they made such a big deal about it at WrestleMania, and then it just kind of slowly, and then this is really the introduction. Martel is full heel, and we're going in this direction, and then just to get a little fire and just get a little, rocket fuel to kind of make this feud, which does go on for a while. It's like if you look at Royal Rumbles in the future, like 91 and 90 and 91, you would always get that moment where you would see Santana and Martel go at it, and you'd always, because I think at that point most people were watching for that 2-year period where it's like your comfort food. We're just coming back. Yeah. Oh, it's the Santana and Martel. They still hate each other for the breakup.
That whole breakup thing that never really got resolved, unfortunately. They might have resolved it at SummerSlam 90, but Rick had that previous engagement in Paris, and, he's a model. What are you going to do? At least by that point, he's a model. Not quite yet. He's managed by the Slickster, and the matches will continue on the house shows. Tito Santana and Martel cutting promos here, basically putting down Taco Breath Tito, and Santana rebutting there, saying no more back jumping. Martel, it's going to be man-to-man, mano-a-mano, face-to-face. Again, at the house shows near you, so they continue to build up even the mid-card matches right now for the house shows as we go off to an interview with yet another fan. We've been doing this a lot lately to promote No Holds Barred. And this lady thinks that Hulk Hogan is so gorgeous. And I wrote plant in my notes. I don't mean that she was working for The Office, but I think in a lot of cases, these guys just want to get on TV. So they're going to say what the cameras are. Whoever says the best line is going to be the one who gets the television spot. And that's what happened here.
Yeah, no, like I had stated on my last appearance when I went to the Condemned, it was the same thing. You'd have everyone, you'd see the camera light, and everyone would try to outdo everybody, and it's not uncommon that people get a little bit, let's just say, crazy when it comes, when the camera light comes on.
Well, you talk about fans getting crazy, wanting to be noticed here. This is my first memory of something like this happening anyway. Up next, we have a tag team match. It's the Twin Towers, the big boss man, Akeem Boss Man, looking menacing in those eyes. Very believable heel as Akeem, the dancing fool, gonna fall. I don't know how they gelled so well, but somehow they worked together okay. It was very, talk about polar opposites, but their opponents this week, Ron Fales and Jim Evans. And as the Twin Towers enter the ring, we cut to the crowd again as we see two gentlemen dressed as Akeem and the big boss. I don't know if you caught it because it was kind of a blink and you miss it opportunity there to get these guys on film, but they do so. And talk about trying to get on TV. They accomplished what they went out to do here. But it's not often we see people dressed up as the wrestlers in this era, much less heels in the Twin Towers.
Yeah, no. It's funny in commentary is I think Jesse kind of points it out, and then Vince is absolutely disgusted. You would have thought they shot his dog. He's like, "Goddamn, pal, why is he cheering for the heels? Should be talking about Hogan." And it's just hilarious, and that's where the Jesse Vince byplay is invaluable.
Yeah, Jesse was great here because he was like, he was laughing literally like, "Those are your WWF fans, McMahon. That's the kind of people you breed and bring to these shows. That's the real deal." So that's what you get, Vince. And so they cut to a teenager also ringside holding a pair of handcuffs. My God, what do these fans do? Where do they get these gadgets and things? What the fuck's wrong with these WWF fans here in the Dane County Expo Center?
Close to a Dollar General or maybe a Piggly Wiggly at that point.
Perhaps. We get an insert promo here from the reigning WWF Tag Team Champions Demolition during the matchup, who say it's time to put up or shut up. Sign on the dotted line, Axe and Smash, backing down from nobody and not backing down from the Twin Towers either. Bring the weapons, bring the nightstick, bring the handcuffs, because the demos will be able to use them. So that feud continues on the house shows as well as we continue on into the summer here. We know that's going to pivot before too long. We won't spoil too much for you guys. We got a fun edition of Saturday night's main event coming up very soon. Ron Fales gets eaten up early in this match. Then in comes Jim Evans, who dives right into a boss man backbreaker. And from there, a very nasty running reverse shoulder breaker. Could have separated his whole entire spine with that one. Setting up Air Africa, the big 747 splash. The Twin Towers going over 2 minutes and 16 seconds. And of course, post-match with Evans doing the job, Ron Fales is the one who is handcuffed and beaten with the nightstick for a good measure. So Twin Towers, where are they at, man? Like I always said, I didn't want them to be a team. I thought they were great in singles, especially Boss Man because he's one of my guys. But I love them as singles. I really didn't want them to be a team, but they were probably the most believable team. That when you told me they were working Demolition, I said, oh no, this is it. This is where they're going to do the switch.
Yeah, no, as we were talking about Snuka having his great splash, is there not a better big man splash than Akeem / one man gang? It looks so good.
Mhm.
It's like, and I'm pretty sure because he is a very portly and rotund gentleman that it makes it a little bit easier to kind of fake it a little bit to where it's just like, oh, he's swallowed a whole. It's like the Yokozuna leg drop, where it's just like his whole freaking hamstring is literally just over his face. And then on top of it, I love Jesse during this match where I think it was Boss Man who had him in he's like, that's my whole McMahon.
Body breaker, right?
The inverted body vice, which is still, I absolutely love. Everyone calls it the backbreaker, but Jesse had the inverted body vice. And then he goes into which is a move that I think is so sorely missed, a shoulder breaker. Whether it be from an inverted position or just like it would be something of like a pile driver, but just a devastating move. Just takes someone's shoulder and it goes over your freaking quad /
Those reverse shoulder breakers were extra nasty. Something about the way they landed. It's kind of like a power bomb down onto the knee. Boss Man doing it running style here. Papa Shango's was pretty nasty. I saw Scott Norton kill a couple guys with that too. So it's a pretty vicious move. And then of course they set up, early on they were doing the Boss Man slam and do the Akeem splash. And I think to give Akeem the heat, Boss Man's doing a bunch of other random moves to set up the splash now, giving Akeem the win. And of course, post-match, Boss Man gets his heat by beating on the job guys with the nightstick. So they both get their shtick in there. Talking about getting shticks in, we've seen perhaps the last of the vignettes in regards to being brand new, but now they're flip-flopping them because I was wondering what they were doing because used to be they would play the same vignette on both Superstars and Challenge. But all time long here in the last couple months, it's been a different vignette on Superstars and Challenge every week. And I'm talking about vignettes for the American Dream Doth It Roll, baby, coming through you, coming in public and live and in living color, if you will. Dusty Rhodes is here. He's now they're flip-flopping. So now Superstars is getting the Challenge vignettes and vice versa. And last week, and sadly, we saw our last vignette, which is the plumber, baby. He was the son of the plumber, and now he's doing the plumbing himself there in Bobby Heenan's house with Bobby Heenan's wife, and Bobby had a lot to say about that. But right now it is Dusty Rhodes. We're going to get the Garbage Man vignette, but since you weren't here for any of them, why don't you tell me your personal favorite vignette here of the... We got 7 of them, I believe there were, and maybe your favorite or just your thoughts in general on the old vignettes here, because a lot of people go, Vince tried to humiliate him, but he got it over. He showed Vince, and I guess so. But I never looked at it that way. I thought, this is your gimmick, and boy, could he get it over, man.
Yeah, for the most part, I mean, it's the Challenge one where he is the meat man, which I was dying laughing because it was just so ridiculous. And I mean, that's the thing. With Dusty, in just at this time frame, what Vince wanted is it's so over the top. Either he's going to sink or swim with this, what I'm putting in front of him. And as Dusty does, he just takes the ball and he runs with it, regardless of what you're putting in front of him. This Dusty was just that guy because he had it. But for the most part, the lady when they did when he was the gas station attendant or just the mechanic, and she's just laughing. I don't know if she just was very giggly. Probably someone from The Office or just someone or she just is that good. But for the most part, I mean, the meat man was, you can't beat my meat. And then he does and goes from there. But
$1 million smile, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Aren't you? And goes from there. But I mean, Dusty still had it. It was just a new coat of paint and it just a different way of showing Dusty Rhodes. Was he a world beater like he was 2 and 3 years ago? No. But he still had that aura of Dusty Rhodes, and that's not going to change.
No, I love it. No matter what they threw at him, he got it over from these vignettes to the polka dots, which will be coming. And then, of course, even Sweet Sapphire later here in 1989. Dusty, I think they gave up after that. Just fuck it. Just let him roll with it. I mean, we're not getting we're not going to bury this guy. It's impossible. It's like I've said, he's the only guy that would have got the Red Rooster over. And I'm sticking to that as well. As we continue on, back to the ring. I don't care what you gave this guy. I don't know if he was getting over in this era because I get shit on all the time. Yes, I'm aware he was a pretty damn good worker back in his heyday, but few too many roids by this point. Talking about the Canadian strongman Dino Bravo, managed by Jimmy Hart, taking on Brad Perry as Dino overpowers controls from the onset. Rough short clothesline, and a pile driver during the match. Dino going to make a cover, but I should point out there's a special referee. Well, he's not a special referee. He's a WWF official. And that's Ronnie Garvin, who points out that Perry's feet are under the ropes. So we get a jumping elbow, but Bravo jerking Perry up at a 2 count, which upsets the referee as well. And the patented side suplex, which is his finisher, side slam, gets 1, 2, and Dino jerking Perry up off the mat a second time. And that upsets referee Ronnie Garvin one too many times. But Dino's still not done. He's going to put this poor job guy in the trio. Whoa, baby. Puts him in the corner, and Bravo won't stop the attack. Relentless as Dino on Brad Perry. Garvin admonishing, even physically having to push Dino back. Garvin then goes over to release Perry from the ropes. And Rugged Ronnie awarding Brad Perry the win by disqualification. How about that?
Yeah, no, this is I think we're getting towards the end of Rugged Ronnie Garvin as a referee.
Yeah.
But I mean, and also during the match, Vince breaking up the bench press record, which it's funny how, today you have to really dig for like those Easter eggs. They would do it all the time in commentary, and if you watched it enough, you would get it. But this just seemed more genuine because Jesse would always say, I gave him 2 pounds of finger pressure, so he still did 710. And then the line, as I think Bravo was coming down because he was commenting on the Dusty vignette, he said, that blubber ball, climb into the garbage truck and do us all a favor. And I'm just laughing because Jesse being a heel and doing a great job of just being Jesse. And then, Vince, byplay, just like, you're full of garbage, Jesse, and blah, blah, blah. So, and he would just, the back and forth is still great. But yeah, I mean, at this point, Bravo was just like I call him literally the human balloon because he was just so yoked up and it was ridiculous.
Dude could not move and he couldn't get over for a lick. I mean, eventually he'll be gifted Earthquake here later in the year, which will help a little bit for 1990 anyway. But I was a little surprised. I just thought it was going to be paid by numbers. Of course, Ronnie Garvin's in there. He's feuding with Greg Valentine, who's also managed by Jimmy Hart. And so we've seen Garvin lay out a couple of the job guys, Mike Sharps, Boris Zukofs, guys like that, who get a little handsy with him after the matchup. But in this instance, Dino getting handsy with Garvin, shoving, what are you doing, disqualifying me? And Dino going to throw a big punch here, Garvin ducking and unloading himself, and it breaks down. Dino not really wanting to sell here for Rugged Ron. I guess took that referee position seriously. Both men trading shots. More officials arrived to separate the two men. Dino Bravo being held back. Garvin with his fist clenched, ready to throw down should Dino be able to break free. So it looks like even though Garvin's feuding with Valentine, of course, he worked Dino at WrestleMania as well, stomped poor Frenchie Martin right out of the company. So we continue to tell the story of Ronnie Garvin. Like you said, his time seems to be near here because he's getting more and more physical with some of these heels in these matches as a referee. But I thought that's what Jack Tunney wanted. I don't know. And I noticed something else here as this match unfolds. As a kid, my first big upset that I really remember jumping up and down and getting excited about, believe it or not, was when Ted DiBiase lost to a fellow by the name of Kevin Greeno leading into WrestleMania 7. It was a count out. Virgil had distracted, or Piper, I think it was Virgil, but somebody comes to ringside, distracts DiBiase, comes outside to argue, and this job guy who I had never even heard of before gets the win. It wasn't like it was a Jimmy Powers or someone of that nature. It was Kevin Greeno. And I see this here with Brad Perry, who I don't know that ever worked tapings before this. And I wonder if that just happens to be coincidence or if that was the purpose and why they would give these guys who were never, quote unquote, going to be back, at least not to any real level of, being pushed. That's why they get, because they can be forgotten. And the focus is more on the heel losing than it is on the job guy winning. Because if Jimmy Powers won, you would remember that Jim Powers beat DiBiase, so maybe they're going to push him, or maybe So I wonder if that was the thought process when they did that with these guys who really weren't around very often.
Yeah, more often than not, I think it was just to further the story, and then just to get, because with Garvin, I think at that point they're going to get him to a point, because I mean they still weren't doing anything with him, even though he's a referee. I mean he had been with the company for what, 4 or 5 months, and then
8 months now. Now, I mean, when it started, 4 or 5 months. Yeah,
and they essentially retire him, and then after that they go referee, and then as we go on, he's a ring announcer as we go into SummerSlam, and then it all comes to a head at Royal Rumble 90, and then some TV stuff after that, and then he's gone. And I don't think Garvin is in any major promotion. I think the next major promotion is maybe Smoky Mountain, and that's probably it for Garvin. And Garvin wasn't a spring chicken either at that point. I mean, going back to what Snuka, I mean, him and Snuka were pretty old at this point.
Yeah. Ron could deliver a pretty snug match. So if you were in those kind of matches, Royal Rumble 90 was certainly one of those matches indeed. Maybe a few too many pinfall attempts in the submit. I liked that early on. I was like, okay, I get it. They lost their train of thought, but then they just kept doing it. And that's my only, if I'm nitpicking, that's my only problem with that. But those guys just beat the crap out of each other. It's going to be fun when we get there. But right now we go back to the ring to see Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, the Rockers, battle Tony Burton and Dusty Wolf. Still Dusty for now, not for long. He's going to have to change that first name there. We've got another Dusty in town now, but Rockers all over the place right now. Brand new poster, it would seem, in the crowd. On the cover of the new Coliseum video release. More Saturday night's main event coming very soon, I should say, to the VIP tier there at the Coliseum cast. And also on the cover of the latest edition of the WWF magazine. So the Rockers getting a little shove here this summer as we get an insert promo from the fabulous Rougeau brothers, who just happen to be feuding with the Rockers, and they tell us, do not pick up a copy of Saturday night's main event. Do not pick up a copy of that poster or magazine. A little reverse psychology there from those heel Rougeaus.
Yeah, no, it's God. I love the Rougeaus. So underrated, and it's a shame that
over my head at that age too.
Yeah, but I mean, for the most part, I just they came in as these very white meat baby faces.
Milk toast, yes.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like you had white bread and there was no butter, there was no jam, there was no peanut butter. You literally were just eating white bread. And it's just, the tag team division was there. It's just I just don't think they got with the right teams. And then the heel turn was great. And they're still great. And I mean, you can't beat All American Boys, probably one of the greatest WWF themes of all time. Always. And it's just they were so great at being asshole, just smarmy, smart ass heels. And
condescending, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Jacques is on a Mount Rushmore for that. Raymond, I think, just took Jacques' lead, and when it comes to that, and then also one of my favorite things of this match is that they're talking about the Coliseum video of more Saturday Night's main event, and Jesse bringing in a little bit of real life into it, be like, there would be no Saturday Night's main event if it weren't for my voice, McMahon. And I'm just like, whoa. Wow. Now that you look back on it, it's hilarious because you figure out that, Jesse obviously wants to get the Union together during WrestleMania 2. Right. And then he kind of goes away, and then he has Predator, and then they have Bobby Heenan on one, and then NBC is literally telling him, like, no, Jesse needs to come back. No more of this. And just funny when he's so good at just bringing that out of Vince. And then, he'll always bring up, and he was always consistent. That made it just that much better because the authenticity was definitely there.
Well, we got action in the ring here. Jesse Ventura calling I'm sure he had some not so nice comments here about the Rockers, as well as Tony Burton with a cheap shot from the apron on Jannetty. Puts the heels in control briefly for the Rockers. Clear the ring, double backdrops, double shoulder tackles. That was different. Back inside those stereo power slams. That eliminates Dusty Wolf from the action, and the double flying fist drop could give the Rockers the win, 2 minutes and 11 seconds. Once again, showing why the Rockers are, in fact, tag team specialists. Woo! So the Rockers, man, where were they for you? Like, for me, I was always Hart Foundation, Demolition. I loved it. I didn't hate the Rockers, but they were never my number one team, man. But when I go back and I just watch for the wrestling, my God, were they really next level at what they were able to put together, with sequences and the double teaming and things of that nature.
Yeah, for me, the Rockers were down for me as well. It's just very high energy. If it had been anywhere else, I think you could probably delineate them more. Obviously, as we go farther on, you know, and then in 90 and 91, and even parts of 90. Well, I mean, 92 they break up or very early on. So,
yeah.
I mean, those are the years that they kind of established themselves, even though they had great matches with the Brain Busters and, you know, would bump their ass off for the bigger heels a la WrestleMania 5 against the Twin Towers. But, I mean, yeah, the Harts you couldn't do much better than the Harts. I mean, I just wish the Bulldogs would have, I mean, if Dynamite doesn't break down, you know, how much more do we get of the Harts, another run of the Harts and Bulldogs, even though you had it in 86/87, but, you know, Dynamite was just so broken at that point. You're not going to get much anything out of that. But also, I mean, the Saturday Night's Main Event taping, the 1990, where they win the titles from the Harts, probably 6 weeks after SummerSlam. And, you know, they find out the rope breaks. So Jack Tunney says no title change. But
when I saw that in an aftermag, dude, I about lost my shit. How dare you guys just canceled the match from airing? Because that was the match. Like, that was the one match we didn't really get on TV. I mean, in full form, right? Like that. I think they did a couple of little bullshit matches during like November sweeps and things like that, but we never really got the match. And for that to be on NBC and then them to yank it, I was never so pissed.
Yeah, no, but I mean, at the time, or what they'd probably do is they would just get selectively editing, and then they'd be like, instead of that, they'll have like 2/3 of the match, and then they'll put a finish that they probably taped somewhere else, and then they'll put that on at the end. But
right.
No, it's, but the Rockers, you know, great team. It's just, it ended very, they were done, you know, when they got done, but for the most part, you know, the Harts, I think, were still king. And even though they were split up, they reunify at this time because obviously the second Bret Hart singles run kind of gets aborted again. He'll get there someday, maybe. We'll see. We get another clip. So we got one of these a couple weeks ago as they were coming to the home stretch of No Holds Barred playing in the theaters. At this point in July, it's only playing in the dollar store theaters, the ones that kind of start showing it after it comes out of the bigger theaters, things of that nature. But we had a promo, and Hulk Hogan, it's about a minute, 90-second promo of Hulk Hogan, and he's talking about his movie, and he's talking about this and that. And then in the middle of it, he sneaks in this, "You better go see my fucking movie, kids, or I'm going to beat the shit out of you. You better tell your parents to take you," kind of deal. This week, they're just coming right at you with it. It's literally like a 10-second bumper. We get a clip here of Hulk Hogan saying, and I quote, this is not me paraphrasing, "Hey, Hulkamaniacs, if you don't go see my movie, No Holds Barred, I'll body slam you." That was the entire message this week. Just straight to the point. Go see my fucking movie or you're not really my fans. I mean, talk about a guy just, what? See, everybody loved him. This is why I was on the other side. Yeah, no, I don't understand this in any way, shape, or form. I mean, good God, they've given away like half the movie in the weeks previous. And you're like, okay, if you're going to see it, you probably already saw it. And I'm like, Hogan just being flippant like that. I'm like, dude, why? Like, just makes no sense to me.
What do you think you would have made off that? I mean, what did it, I don't even remember what it cost to go to it because I wasn't paying myself for a ticket back in the 1980s. But I mean, you scared 3 people into going, maybe? I mean, I'm not knocking like there's only 3 people going to see the movie, but I mean, from that promo, how many people do you think you really... Because if I was going to go see it at this point, I'm still going to go see it. And if I wasn't, I'm not going to go see it. I just don't know what they thought that was going to do other than kind of makes... And I've never even seen this or I don't remember it until I am actually covering it here for the first time, at least in my memory, I'm seeing this and I'm going, what in the hell are they doing? That is their ultimate baby face. What on earth is he doing? Like threatening these children to go see his movie, or you're not really a fan, basically implying you're not really a Hulkamaniac if you don't go, support me, brother.
Yeah, no, probably that might be snack time as a kid. You knew the match ended, you're like, oh, it's probably going to commercial, and they maybe missed it.
Well, it's that time, one of my favorite times of the week, time for the Brother Love Show with guest. Well, it starts with Sister Sensational, yes, and out first is Miss Sherry to introduce the next reigning WWF champion, the Madness, the Macho Man Randy Savage, Brother Macho. I love the names that Brother Love would give some of these people. Just Later on, Sister Queen Sensational Sherry and Brother Virgile. And later on, even when he returns in 95, Brother Maybell for King Mabel. So it's always some really good stuff there from Bruce Pritchard. Like him or not as a human being or in the backstage, I mean, Brother Love to me was, I don't know, man, another character I loved as a kid. Now, I was happy when he got beat up too, but I enjoyed those segments. I guess probably more than just Brother Love himself. I enjoyed the segments, I think. And that was where I stood anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it was the next iteration of, Piper's Pit, because obviously Piper was gone and that really never came back. And if you go back even earlier than that, you had the Body Shop with Jesse in like 85 in the Canadian markets. And then Magnificent Moments, which is highly underrated because I'm a big mark for Don Morocco, just even though at that point he had ballooned up so much. Just Don Morocco in general is definitely
the hoses, man, the hoses.
At that point, the blue tints did flare, and they just kind of stayed flared, if you know what I mean. But good.
Oh
God.
yeah. Well, there's been a lot of them, but Brother Love probably the most successful after Roddy Piper by a long stretch. Certainly, probably the most successful of all time. Unless I'm forgetting, somebody's going to say, "Oh, the Miz" or one of these people, these shows from today. But
I think his was the longest because obviously, Piper did last for a long time, but
right,
there were breaks in it. Like you had obviously you had the Flower Shop, and then by 87, after WrestleMania 3, it was no more. So they can then,
I think Brother Love did about just about a 3-year stretch straight through. Did Mr. Pritchard there. But it was the memorable one. So this is one of the ones I really remember as a kid because Brother Macho claims to be a victim of conspiracy. Hulk Hogan nor Brutus Beefcake seem to get the job done one-on-one against the Macho Man. So he believes that they're working together to take him out, double teaming the madness. Sounds like the paranoia from Randy Savage that I'm accustomed to know and love. But that's okay because the Macho Man says he's the greatest problem solver who ever lived. He's found himself someone to watch his back. He's got himself a human wrecking machine, and there's that term for the very first time on WWF television. As out comes, Sherry says, Zeus, Zeus, Zeus! Madness in his eyes. How long did Randy have his finger in freaking eyeballs of Zeus here?
Yeah, no, it's that's the thing. He's got like the Shawn Michaels lazy eye. It seems like too, where you would, if you looked at it really a lot. Yeah. But also, I'll always remember this Brother Love instance because obviously it showed up in all the feud packages, especially for SummerSlam coming up here in about month or so from now. But yeah, no, it's Zeus. This is where, like I said, 89 is a very weird year in that you have Hogan and Savage that just continues, and this is the continuation of it, obviously. And then it's just kind of just where they suck it in. And then obviously at the end of the year, they have the tag team cage match in, I believe it's Memphis or Nashville. And then they have the obligatory no holds barred movie and match, which you could get on pay-per-view. That was your Christmas present for that year. So it's but Zeus, Debo, whatever character that you've probably known him from, or Z Gangsta as he was,
Gangsta,
which absolutely. Is the probably
Abomination, yes.
Well, I don't know, between that and the Ultimate Solution, which would have been the final solution, which is a whole other conversation. But
even though ultimate means final, a little shift in word there.
Yeah, that's true too. But at the same time, just the ridiculousness of that, 4-tier cage match, which I'm grateful they've never done again. But for comedic and other purposes, it's fun to look back on. But
also involving Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man and Zeus. So we're three. And was Zodiac? I don't think Zodiac was in that match, but I'm sure he wished he had. We could have had all 4 guys.
No, he was the booty man at that point. Because
that's right. He had to. He brings in the.
He brought in the metal. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, and not from his face either.
Yeah, that's true.
He's got some frying pans back there cooking up something. perhaps illegal. I don't really know. But here is where Zeus, the infamous phrase, Hulk Hogan, Beefcake Bar-ber, and Zeus promising that he and Savage will destroy Hulk Hogan and the Bar-ber, and Savage encouraging Hogan and Brute-Eye to name the date and don't be late. And thus, I think we may have ourselves the beginnings of our SummerSlam main event building here in July to the big SummerSlam. Feel the heat.
Zeus's limited promo style, but it's one of my favorite Savage lines, which he recycled many times. Make a date and don't be late. It's just unhinged. It's so great. I love Savage's alliteration at times. As maniacal as he can be. Just simple stuff is always the best.
So they're kind of planting the seeds here, obviously, and we're going to have to hear from Hulk and Brute-Eye. I don't know if we'll hear from them this week. We'll have to wait and see. But like they do in most instances where you have a big angle or something to talk about, basically coming out of the commercial break, they give us a throwaway match, and I hate to say that, but that's just what they do, a cool-down match, if you will, and they do that here with the Birdman, Koko Beware, who rarely makes syndicated TV, so perfect placement here, as he takes on Harley Manson, the new look Birdman, but same old theme, doesn't really match the new neon trunks, the sequin jackets, the painted up head of the Birdman here, but Manson lumbering and dead weight for the couple spots that they do. Koko with a drop kick, hard clothesline just to let Manson know, and then a middle rope fist drop a la Jerry Lawler, going to get the match over with in just 50 seconds time. Wow, probably for the best, though. An all-new Koko Beware flashier attire, less flashy offense, but Ware does teach Manson a lesson for sucking, as he's flapping Frankie. I don't know if you caught that at the end of the match. Literally sticks Frankie down on his face, flaps the wings. I'm not really sure if he was trying to get him to shit on poor Manson or what the deal was, but quick win for the Birdman. Gets him on the TV, I suppose.
Yeah, no, well, it's, the B stands for buckwheat. One of my favorite Jesse lines about Koko Beware. But, this is the time where Koko, I think, is just flailing. It's funny enough, he's in this Survivor Series main event.
Oh, yeah.
And he just craters. And for whatever reason, it's just one of those things that I just can't quite understand with Koko Beware, where it's like he just kind of existed for a long period of time, and then it was into other random tag teams and other things before he kind of went away for good.
For good, yeah. He's got high energy and all kinds of good stuff like that still to come. But it's SummerSlam. Feel the heat. That's their catchphrase here this year for the pay-per-view. And again, second year in a row, we're going to get a tag team main event, it would seem. But we continue on with singles action in the ring. Mr. Perfect, that's Curt Hennig, taking on Scott Colton. As Perfect owning Colton on the mat game, some nasty chops for good measure in between. And now you're going to see a Perfect Plex. Gets the pretty quick win here for Mr. P. 1 minute and 44 seconds. It feels like just in the last few weeks, they're upping the push of Curt Hennig. He's been strolling along. He's undefeated, but just in the last few weeks, it feels like they're planning something for this guy, something more. He's going to be moving up the card.
Yeah, Mr. Perfect was so great. The vignettes and everything else to him, as time goes on. And I think this is like to me, this is his biggest year, even though he's not a champion until next year, because obviously with the fallout of WrestleMania 6. But Curt Hennig just made it effortless in the ring, even with job guys, was just absolutely, great in the ring, and then him feuding with Bret Hart on the house shows, which are great matches. We obviously later on get a SummerSlam match for the Intercontinental title, King of the Ring, and countless house show matches in between there. Kurt was one of the best workers at that point, and it was good to see him get more and more ingrained. And obviously one of your favorites, the Genius, and the nice little breaking of the WWF title towards the end of the year, the last Saturday Night's Main Event, at least.
I can't wait till I get to watch the Genius sing and dance in the back. Like that's just the icing on the cake for that segment for me. But I think Curt Hennig, from that period until his retirement with Bret, he was probably my favorite heel on the roster. So I'm very, very excited for Curt Hennig and what's to come here for him over the next couple of years on the Grenade Show. But Mr. P right now, he's managerless. He'll find himself a manager, as you pointed out, and then another manager which even really takes him to another level there in April of 1990. But for right now, he's still kind of finding his way here, figuring it out. And he'll get some theme music before too long, too, and I'm looking forward to that also. But at this point in the show, they're going to tell us to send our get well wishes to Jake the Snake, the ailing Jake Roberts, at this address, pal, because they need your address for the holiday merchandise catalog, is my understanding here. Anytime you see this, that's all they're doing is collecting your address. It's not Jake's probably not receiving these get well wishes, and even if he was, I don't think Jake was reading them.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, to me, if you look back throughout the years, I mean, that address, but for next year with Hulk Hogan, getting squashed by earthquake and whatever other injury, that was the address. And you'd always be like, yep, there's the catalog. So you can buy a few T-shirts, maybe a few cassettes for the theme songs, and so on and so forth. So, your obligatory plug.
Well, for those of you who have been missing out on the grenade as of late, Jake is out with a legitimate surgery, but also out due to some legal situations that took place in Florida. And he's going to be settling those in the fall, and just so happens to coincide with his recovery time. So Jake will be back before the Survivor Series to rekindle his feud with Ted DiBiase on the way out. DiBiase right now taking credit for putting the Snake Man on the shelf. We'll talk more about that later on in the months to come. Back by popular demand, and you mentioned this off the air, Matt, is the music video for No Holds Barred. How many movies have their own music? Now, we've seen MTV, a song comes out, and they play little clips of the movie in between, but this entire song, this entire video is dedicated to the movie itself, No Holds Barred.
Yeah, I had forgotten that this was a thing, and then it immediately burned into my memory banks. It's like the PTSD just came out, and you're just kind of laughing because it's like I said off the air, it's like Frank Stallone having like a fifth-rate knockoff, and it's just sloshed all over the screen, and it's like when you saw the Rambo movies, the ending song, or like Missing in Action, where you would have, in the earlier ones, you'd have a bigger name artist, but towards the end, it was either a brother of a brother or a friend of a friend who would do the theme, and you're just like, my God, make it stop. But, oh my God. If you listen to the lyrics, your brain will just melt with just ridiculousness.
I hope John Paz is not listening to this, because the Paz man has informed me that he in fact plays that when he's working out, when he's running. He has to listen to it. It gets him in the mood.
We all have our ways of motivating ourselves, and
to each their own.
God bless him.
John is a huge Hulkamaniac. I was not. That might be part of my reasoning for never acquiring that particular song, but acquired taste. And as is this next gentleman, at least at this point in his career, I'm talking about Greg the Hammer Valentine, with manager Jimmy Hart in his corner, taking on Frankie DeFalco, as we get an insert promo here from the Hammer, who alerts us that Ronnie Garvin is a terrible referee and informs us of his intentions to get Garvin suspended from officiating, like he retired him from active competition as a wrestler. So the Hammer still taking issue, obviously upset that one of his stable mates was screwed here earlier on the program as well. Valentine continuing to have his issues with Ronnie Garvin, and we touched on that earlier. So we're going to close out Superstars as we talk about what's going to happen here next week. We're going to see in the ring the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, Luke and Butch. The Bushwhackers will be here. Tito Santana, Arriba, former Intercontinental Champion, the Ultimate Warrior, the Fabulous Rougeaus, the Mighty Hercules, the Honky Tonk Man. We got a special update segment with President Jack Tunney. Going to discuss this week's altercation between Garvin and Bravo. So, Ron, look out. Plus, the Genius with a special presentation on the Brother Love Show. Wonder what that's all about. Lots of cool stuff coming up next week as they continue to they would alternate the talent from Superstars to Challenge, where most of the time, whoever was on one was not on the other this week. And next week, we're going to get a whole new troop of guys in here that we didn't see this week on the program.
Yeah, totally. It's just kind of really, if you kept up with the television, you kind of figured it out, because they have like a 3-week period of the same venue, kind of same area, and then you'd have different talent here and there. But
well, we run down. I mean, it feels like they've added an extra squash match, so I think the squashes are going a little shorter, and they're going to see that on Challenge here in a moment as well. But the big storyline, if all of that wasn't enough, they promote that next week we're going to hear the response from Hulk Hogan and Brutus Beefcake after that challenge issued by Randy Savage and Zeus earlier today. So we have that to look forward to next week on TV, a cliffhanger of sorts. And we're going to leave you in a cliffhanger right now, guys. We're going to be right back. Got Wrestling Challenge on the other end, but right now we're going to take this quick WrestleCopia timeout.
Relive the glory days of Memphis wrestling with the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast. Each week, we go back in time to review USWA Championship Wrestling from the 1990s, episode by episode. Join us for watch-alongs, behind-the-scenes stories, and exclusive interviews with people who were there and lived it. Whether you grew up watching it or you're discovering it for the first time, this podcast is your ringside seat to Memphis wrestling history. It's all a part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Listen now at USWApodcast.com.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here. Lots of new stuff happening here at WrestleCopia, and I want to update you on everything going on with the brand right now. First and simple, if you haven't checked out our website at WrestleCopia.com, it's a great way to keep up with the latest episodes of all of your favorite Copia programming, from the Wrestling Memory Grenade to Regional Wrestling with the Territory Talk, the Wrestling Stoop with the legendary Bob Roop, Professor Dan Ginnity and the Pro Wrestling Academy, and all the other great podcasts from Gene Jackson, Bob Smith, Dave Dynasty, and the boys from the Other Ship. And of course, all of those programs also available at your favorite podcast streaming platforms. And if you want to stay up to date with everything going on in the Copia world, all the latest news, random thoughts, fun videos, pictures, and more, make sure to join the more than 33,000 followers over at Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. Don't be left out. Please also follow us at the former Twitter, now X, at Wrestling Grenade, and subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. Would also greatly appreciate you leaving us a 5-star review at your favorite podcast apps, guys, because every positive review makes our podcasts more visible in the algorithms, if you will, which allows us to continue to grow. Now, for those who have been asking about merchandise, WrestleCopia merch, you can find plenty of designs for our t-shirts, hats, magnets, stickers, coffee mugs, and more over at the TeePublic store. That is tpublic.com/user/WrestleCopia. And last but definitely not least, it's what keeps the entire machine going. I'm talking about patreon.com/WrestleCopia. Now with 3 major tiers and tons of Patreon exclusive next level content for our supporters. Remember guys, no subscription, cancel any time, but I think you'll like the content that we're offering there for any budget you may have. And you can sign up right now, patreon.com/WrestleCopia. We appreciate your support in helping us pay the bills to keep the WrestleCopia Podcast Network running and enabling us to continue to bring you all the quality programming that we offer.
This is Wrestling Nostalgia, the podcast that dives into wrestling history. Hey, wrestling fans, I'm Dave Dynasty, and if you enjoy podcasts that are knowledgeable and history-driven, then Wrestling Nostalgia is for you. With great guests and fun interviews, there are over 200 episodes in our archives. We chat with several first-time guests and often cover topics not discussed on other podcasts. Look up Wrestling Nostalgia on your favorite podcast platform and visit all of our links at linktree/WrestlePod. That is linktr.ee/RASSLEPOD. And remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Grenade. This is Wrestling Challenge, July the 9th, 1989. Tape back June 7th, Rockford, Illinois at the Metro Center. And it is Tony Schiavone now, along with Gorilla Monsoon, and a late to the party, Bobby Heenan, joining commentary. Tony, the new play-by-play guy, making Gorilla the new color man, putting Bobby out as the third wheel here, and they've given him the title, the analyst, perhaps the broadcast journalist at this point. Bobby not embracing his new job, and this is all to obviously set up some things to come, but very hostile. And I got to be honest with you, man, as you watch this, you kind of feel bad for Bobby. They are kind of treating him like, the uncool kid in the school class. He's like trying to get involved, but you just kind of annoying him, nudging him out and mocking him and things of that nature here on the commentary with the Brain, Tony, and Gorilla all together as one.
Yeah, but also, I mean, Tony Schiavone at this point was just a shell of himself, if there ever was one. And to me, it was just, you had Heenan and Monsoon as even Wrestling Challenge, at least for the majority of this run at this point. Yeah. But, I mean, the thing of it is they sell it so well because they're so good with each other, where it's just like you could feel that tension, and it gets pretty heated. Where Monsoon would chuckle a little bit in a Heenan line, but there was next to none of that. So it was great to it'd be funny to see once we hit primetime and throughout this episode to kind of see the iteration of all this.
We know in this era everybody was a pro. They weren't really told what to do. There may have been bullet points, but they certainly didn't have a script. And for Tony to have been here, 7 months or whatever the case is, and hasn't really been given this opportunity until now to cover one of the big shows. Anyway, he's done some voiceover work on primetime and matches like that, but never really to this degree. And now he's finally just, as of last week, a member of the broadcast team here with Gorilla and Bobby. And he kind of feels, I don't want to say out of sorts. I mean, he's trying to figure it out. It's very hard dynamic when anybody's thrusted into it's really Tony that's the third wheel, because he's thrusted into this beautiful machine that is Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan work so well together. Well-oiled machine are those two, and Tony just trying to make it work. And Bobby's doing an excellent job throughout the program of letting them speak so he can complain, screwing a line up so Tony can correct him. So Bobby he's feeding them lines, and they're able to take advantage of it. Gorilla, obviously, they're the greatest ad-libbers in the world with each other. And Tony does a pretty good job here. I'm not sure how much Bobby gave Tony walking into this as far as what I'm going to do, but I thought Schiavone, for what he was given to work with here, he was trying. It's not really his spot, really, to come out here. A new guy, too, to the WWF fans, to screw with one of the fans' own. Even if Bobby was a heel, the Bobby Heenan on commentary was not the Bobby Heenan, the manager. So that's why I always enjoyed Bobby on commentary. He was like a different guy. It was more of a slapstick deal with him and Gorilla a lot, more than Jesse, who was just a heel's heel. Bobby was kind of like the comic relief heel.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, but Heenan would always have his lines, and I think that's what made him stand out, as Jesse was just really he would always make himself consistent, the man who tells it like it is. So it would, both of them have their place and are very good at what they do. Obviously, Heenan did it for, a lot longer, because obviously Jesse is, about a year away from going bye-bye, at least from commentary, at least in a major position, at least for about a year or so. But, Heenan just, it was just on his quick wit, and everything else just made it seem effortless and seamless.
I don't think people realize just, I don't want to say it's hard, because for people that are good at doing that, it doesn't come easy to the average person. And so, but Bobby is so effortless in what he does out here on the commentary throughout this. And we're going to talk about primetime here before we close out, believe it. But right now we're going to go to the ring for King Hacksaw Jim Duggan battling Jim Megan, as Megan tries a rush attack on Duggan, but King Hacksaw holds up his cape and clotheslines Megan with it. Even with weapons, he does clotheslines. That's like all of his moves. They give him a cape and he still clotheslines people. That's all he's got here. As we hear the USA chants, but he's over. I got to admit that. Duggan getting the USA chants going. Running clothesline, wind-up slam, 3-point stance, and a slow running clothesline. Boy, is he really slowed down here in the last several months. Jim Duggan getting the win, 1 minute and 55 seconds. Once upon a time, Jim was running across that ring and darting it, almost spear-like with the clothesline, leaving his feet. And he said at some point, Hulk Hogan came to him and said, "Stop doing that, brother. You don't have to you're going to blow your knees out if you just keep doing that every day." And I have to wonder how much of that was Hogan trying to protect himself, and how much of that, but it's true at the end of the day. But at this point, this is the Duggan we're going to see basically for the remainder of his run here. And he's just kind of moving at a slower gear, it feels like, from this point forward.
Yeah, also, he did put on a few pounds, and then the obligatory pay-per-view line, which is still one of my favorites from Jim Duggan, where the ring mic would, tell him to get off his ass when he was beating up the heels in the corner, which still pops me to this day. Yeah. But I mean, Duggan was just, this is not Mid-South Duggan. This is not, very early Duggan who still was in relatively decent shape. I mean, Duggan got a lot more rotund over the years, and obviously as time goes on, he does get a little bit bigger, but not much more. But like you'd stated, I mean, this is pretty much the Duggan we get throughout the rest of his run, which lasts another 4 years.
Yeah, he's got a long way to go here. And he did have knee issues. I knew he had knee issues coming into the WWF after, I don't know if he got them in New Japan, but I know the agreement was that Inoki was going to pay for the surgery, which he didn't up front anyway. That was going back to the end of the UWF run with Duggan. So he's had knee issues for a while. I know he's had them here in the WWF as well. So I'm not really giving him crap for not bumping to his knees with the clothesline, but later on he would bring in a new finisher, which was a knee drop. So it's kind of interesting to think about that. But we continue on. Usually whatever we get on Update, we get a version on Special Report with Lord Alfred Hayes here promoting the Rick Martel Tito Santana feud. And they actually give him different promos. Usually we'll recycle the promos. Sometimes they'll flip-flop them and think they'll fool you that way. But these were actually different promos. Slick promises to unleash his homeboy, Rick Martel, on Tito Santana, who plans to settle things his way. Arriba, whatever that may be. Tito and Martel, we talked about that. So we'll continue on as more fans loving themselves some No Holds Barred. And I've noticed when they interview the fans, if they ask them what's your favorite part of the movie, a lot of them go back to the limo scene and the Dookie bit, which I think was probably my most memorable part of the entire movie. That's the only part we ever referenced when we were kids and made fun of, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, no, I mean, when they say, oh yeah, the top of going on the top of the car, that was great. I'm like, okay, great. That's wonderful. But to me, it's just like, it was
like Rey Mysterio jumping in the sky, right?
Well, yeah, no, it's there was no booyaka coming out of the top of that.
No, definitely not. There was some bull yaka coming out of that maybe, but yeah. I never understood. I could see punching yourself out of the car, but that 20-foot pop up into the sky, I don't know how he pulled that one off, but leave it to the Hulkster, man. And leave it to the Brainbusters, Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, to give us a fun little squash match here. Bobby Heenan in their corner, so he's off commentary. It's Sonny Rogers and Red Tyler, the opponents, as the future tag team champions, I would think here. I'm referring to Sonny and Red, by the way, not the Brainbusters. No. The referee is indeed the returning Danny Davis as an official, still under supervision. So play it safe, Danny, as Rogers and Tyler try a double team on Arn to get things going. But Tully quickly takes out Tyler on the mat, and a double team on Red sends him out to the floor. Meanwhile, Sonny Rogers finally tagging into the ring. Tully landing a nice drop kick there. Great heel double teaming, like I need to mention that. Arn Anderson delivering that patented spine buster before a nasty assisted gourd buster. My goodness, so they get these guys up there, and wow, what a way down. And a spike pile driver to end this thing right in front of the official. The match goes 4 minutes. Only the second time, not since WrestleMania 5 and the Tito Santana spike pile driver, has a referee been spending the past 6, 7, 8 months doing that move as their finisher, but always finding a way to distract the official because it's devastating and could be illegal. But here we do it right in front of the referee.
Yeah, Tully and Arn just, do they need a finisher? I mean, to me, they were just that good. And to me, that gourd buster, would they just do it to the job, guys? My God. Just feels like they just threw him down like a sack of shit and just like, boom. And I don't know if they wanted to protect the move so well, but then I think they just gave up like, no one gives a shit. We're just going to spike him right in front of the referee.
Well, they come from that old school, right? They got that mentality of, well, this is an illegal move, so we've got to distract the referee. We've got to make it believable. And maybe at some point they do go, well, you know what? Did they ever fall into that WWF world? I don't know that they do. We'll have to wait and see. But they do this week, as they do it right in front of Danny Davis, who may be on the take. We'll have to wait and find out what happens with Dangerous Danny here. But another big win for the Brainbusters. Bigger things ahead for them here this summer. As we continue on with the action, though, it's the Mighty Hercules battling Butler Stevens as Bobby rejoins commentary. We also get an insert promo from Dino Bravo and Jimmy Hart continuing the battle of who in the world is the world's strongest man. Boy, that really sold some tickets, I'm sure. As once Hercules puts down the chain, Steven's attacking the Mighty One, but Hercules comes fighting right back. Quick suplex, backbreaker, torture rack. This one's over just 1 minute and 55 seconds. Hercules floundering in this Dino Bravo feud after that babyface turn with DiBiase. So this match, again, much like the Coco match, I'm sad to say, used to continue to push the issues, not of the Mega Power, or not of Hogan and Savage, but rather Bobby and Gorilla. So we're actually using a wrestler's match to push the angle with the commentators right now.
Yeah, no, I loved Hercules' theme. I don't know why. As
the trumpets, baby.
Yeah,
the trumpets.
The trumpets and everything that really worked. And then him using the torture rack, which they would call the backbreaker, which, the 8 million backbreakers that apparently you can use. Obviously, later on, Ludwig Borga used it. And funny enough, against Lex Luger, which the irony is deep.
Yes,
but, Hercules was your typical, third or fourth babyface and just existed.
I felt like they could have done a little more with him. I'm not saying intercontinental level. I really don't know about that, but I like that, third or fourth kind of, on a house show. Because you got A's and B shows and things of that nature, but I felt like they kind of gave up on Herc as soon as they turned him. It was like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to give you DiBiase. Obviously, you're going to get a little revenge on Bobby. We'll feed you Haku because Haku jobs to everybody, unfortunately, fortunate for Haku. But unfortunate for the WWF, Haku didn't have an ego. So he did business, whatever they wanted him to do, he went out there and did. But yeah, it was just, they didn't really do Herc any favors with Haku as his opponent because those matches weren't exactly barn burners. The DiBiase stuff, I think the right guy came out. I think DiBiase deserved to win that feud, even if the baby faces usually win the feud. DiBiase's higher up. They probably have more plans for Teddy than they do Hercules, but I don't think he does anything else between now and Power and Glory as far as, actual quote-unquote storyline or anything of that nature. So, all right, we roll on, guys. We're going to hear from the Rockers here showing off the new edition of the magazine. Hey, the Rockers on the cover going to promote their own, and hopefully they make a couple bucks off. I don't know how that works. Probably not, but hopefully they get something for appearing on the cover of the brand new edition of the WWF magazine. They'll do it again at some point, and they'll even have some page spreads and things of that nature, so they can use those as well. And on the Bar-ber shop, many moons down the road. So right now, though, we go back to the ring for a guy who wasn't a tag team. Right now, he's a singles. It's about to be a tag team again, unfortunately for him. I'm talking about the Barbarian managed by Mr. Fuji, battling Ray Oakley here, as Gorilla Monsoon asking the analyst, Bobby Heenan, the broadcast journalist he is, why did the Powers of Pain split up? Why are they no longer a team? Bobby Heenan says, I don't know. And of course, that's when the arguing begins again. How do you not know, Brain? You're the broadcast journalist. You're supposed to know these things. Now, this is kind of untimely because the Powers of Pain are about to be put back together. Unfortunate for the Barbarian, who looks awesome here, as Oakley ducks a clothesline and runs right into that beautiful Barbarian boot. Nobody did it better. And a second boot later in the match for good measure. Lucky Ray Oakley gets to take two of those things before the clothesline off the top rope. And Barbarian took care of him there. Going to get him a quick win, 1 minute and 56 seconds. Talk about night and day, man. The Barbarian, all the talent in the world. The Warlord, pretty cool to look at. But in the ring, just the, what do they call it? The drizzling shits.
Well, the thing of it is the Barbarian was working a hell of a lot longer than, the Warlord. The Warlord, you remember coming into Crockett in 86 with Baby Doll. And then he just is there, and then he just goes away as fast as he debuted, essentially. And then eventually, the Powers of Pain become, a thing in their feud with the Road Warriors, which, I've talked about when you have Big on Big. That was just one of the feuds that just didn't work overall. But yeah, the Barbarian was just the Conga the Barbarian, been Barbarian pretty much everywhere, just different names and everything else. But he just seemed a lot more polished because I think he had worked so many different territories that had a lot more experience than the Warlord did.
Well, the Warlord's going to be here for about 3 more years, and I don't know that he gets any better over that time period. But he has a good match with Davey Boy, so I'll give him that. I'll give him that much credit anyway. But and at this point, Barbarian's working syndicated shows and Warlord is working primetime, and that should basically be the telltale right here for the time being. They will be put back together before too long, and before they're taken apart again at the beginning of 1990. Another guy right now who is working solo, not really doing a whole lot, but I'm talking about Bad News Brown battling Larry Larson. We get an insert promo here from Bad News, who talks the beard-bellied sharecroppers and the spineless cockroaches. He invites them to take note of this match going on right now in the ring. The hurtin' he's about to put on Larry Larson here, and that he does. Brown jumping Larson before the bell, dominates on the offense. The arguing also continues on commentary, 3 matches in a row now. So we've certainly picked the correct matches to do that in, because not a lot by way of action, and none of these guys have anything going on either. So there's not really much to talk about outside of the ring for any of the talent in the ring, but it's the Ghetto Blaster, which gets it done in 2 minutes time. Bad News Brown don't really have any plans, but he comes out of a feud with the WWF champion at the time, Randy Savage. He had worked Hogan on NBC going into WrestleMania, and coming out of WrestleMania, even at WrestleMania, nothing for Bad News Brown, and we know it's going to stay that way for the remainder of 1989. Kind of peculiar.
Yeah, I just don't think they knew what to do with him, because I think he was just kind of different. He was different than most everyone else, but also I just don't think he had, I mean, who are you going to run him with? I think is the next question potentially you'd ask, because it just looks like he just is, he's just there as a body to fill up a mid-card spot, maybe an opening match slot. In some ways, maybe give him a cheap win or whatnot. But yeah, Bad News Brown's just very, until, we get to January of next year and in towards WrestleMania and even to the summer of 1990, he's just there, just the guy.
And we learn he has a fear, phobia, if you will. We'll get there when we get there. But for right now, Bad News Brown, and like you said, just another guy on the roster. What do we do with him? How do we protect him? How do we give him a feud? I don't know. Everybody's kind of married, and some of the guys that are left over, I don't think you'd want to put with Bad News Brown. Even Hogan, for respect, fear, whatever the case may be, even Hogan had a very different match with Bad News than he had with most of the... Now, he hulked up, but it wasn't the old... punch, 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 boot, leg drop. Or, it was kind of like duck the Ghetto Blaster and Hulk up, and we do the high knee off the ropes, kind of like a weird, just out of the blue spot and a leg drop to pin him on NBC. So even Hogan had a little bit of a different match with Bad News Brown, and that kind of tells you where everybody else is on the food chain when it comes to working with Bad News. As Bobby Heenan demanding to do the instant replay for this matchup. As the Ghetto Blaster lands, Bobby says Larson got hit in the occipitus precipitous, which I believe he meant the external occipital protuberance. But of course, Gorilla Monsoon got to let him have it there for screwing that up as well.
Yeah, no, well, but one of the best lines in most WrestleManias, oh, right on the back of your head, right in the external occipital protuberance area, that'll knock you out. The what? Will you repeat that?
And it was so legit. Like, that was so, he laughed, he kind of chuckled with Jesse was so great with that. What? He hit him where?
Well, I mean, to me, it was the anatomy class with Gorilla Monsoon. I mean, I learned that there are body parts. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I learned from Gorilla Monsoon. No classroom taught me that except Gorilla Monsoon.
The lateral collateral ligaments. I don't even know if that's a real thing or not. I had a conversation out here with Brian R. Solomon, and I think he said Gorilla actually took anatomy or something along those lines in college, so he did know things, but there were a lot of times, too, Dave Meltzer would point out that Gorilla would say things that weren't real or he got wrong because his doctor friends told him and things like that. So, it is what it is. Gorilla was my guy growing up, man. He could do no wrong with me. And I also, took me a little bit because, me and my cousin, it took us a long time to learn what he was actually saying. So we would just kind of mimic what we thought he was saying when we would, joke about it as kids and things of that nature. But, yeah, that little bump on the back of your head, Jess. As we go off to a special interview, Mean Gene Okerlund talking about the tag team champions, Axe and Smash Demolition, with their masks on. Gene can't seem to tell them apart, leading to Axe with the old throwback, referring to Gene as Howard, because he's calling Axe Smash and Smash X. Get it right, Howard. And he did that a lot as a heel. They would get Gene's name wrong as well. So Gene admitting the Twin Towers got to be the bigger team of the two, but he questions if they're the badder team than Demolition. Smash stating that they're standing here with the belts, aren't they? That makes them the baddest team on the block. Axe said he heard how tough the Twin Towers are and how bad they want the titles. Well, sign the contract, and they pretty much have in every single arena at this point. They've been doing this since post-WrestleMania, so obviously that feud going to be drawing to a conclusion very shortly, but not before that gigantic six-man tag at SummerSlam.
Obviously we're getting closer to Saturday night's main event and the title switch, and just they kind of kept Demolition in there, and obviously they would be in the main event of the next Survivor Series, in a couple months. But Demolition was still so over at this point. To me, even taking the belts off them, they were still over. To me, they were just a great, great team.
It's funny you hear so many people say when you're over to a certain level, you don't need a title. Meanwhile, Hulk Hogan, there's nobody more over, and I get why they protect him and give him the title. But Demolition, did they need the title? I don't know if they looked at the same measure when it came to tag teams. It seemed like in the tag team world, the best did have the belts. And I'm not saying there weren't better teams, like the Hart Foundation, easily probably the better working team. And again, it depended on who they were feuding with, who they were working with, what week, the way the wind blew that week. I was a Demolition and a Hart Foundation guy. Ask me every week, and I tell you, I liked one team better than the other. There was no really, there were my 1A and 1B really during this time period. But at the end of the day, it felt like in the tag division, the best had to be the champions. And it wasn't always that way necessarily with certain other belts in certain other places.
Yeah, and also at this point, the tag team division had been decimated so much. To me, the Busters, I think, were the team that were to take it off of Demolition. It just made the most sense, at least, because they were pretty much your almost top heels. I'd say your top heels, because when they won the belts, that pretty much made them the top heel team. But they were just a good enough team to take it, and the public can buy. I don't know if you do that. The Hearts, as great as they were as a team in 1989, if you put the belts back on them, well, what is it really going to do? I think it was better that they did wait a year to take it off and take it off of Demolition and then put it to the Hearts. Just made more sense.
Yeah, well, the Demos are the champions for this time being. They're continuing to work with the Twin Towers and the house shows. Again, we got a big, giant six-man tag team match coming up at SummerSlam between those two sides. But we'll see what happens with the Demos here as July progresses, actually. We go to the ring now. Newcomer, I believe, that making his second appearance on television now and his debut on Wrestling Challenge, talking about the Widowmaker, Barry Windham, battling Todd Becker. Gorilla Monsoon asking, what on earth is a Widowmaker, Brain? And Bobby actually has the answer. Gorilla, well, keep pushing me and your wife will find out. What is a Widowmaker? Gotta love the answer for Bobby Heenan. No, but he does inform us that it is also the meanest bull in the corral. So take that for what it's worth. But you got to love the one-liners. Bobby Heenan always ready.
Yeah, no. It's Barry Windham's is so different here, and it's just like, and obviously it does not last very long due to let's just say his dad and Kendall not being the most upstanding citizens on the block. But for the most part, imagine what could have been if Barry Windham, I think, was on, and I know there have been rumors for years there was a Hogan feud probably down the line that may have been WrestleMania 6. We may not have gotten the Warrior. Maybe the Warrior would have been a year later, which would have probably been a little bit different when it comes to let's just say the LA Coliseum when it comes to WrestleMania 7. But it's just a squandered opportunity because to me it's just like Barry Windham, to me 2 years later was possibly one of the best top 2-3 workers in the world, or at least in the United States. His matches with Flair and everything else, but just the popcorn fart this is just very unfortunate.
It's almost a blink, even though he's here off and on for essentially the rest of the year. It's a blink and you'll miss it deal with me. I remember Barry being there, couldn't remember a damn thing he did, which he doesn't do anything. And there were a lot of injuries with Barry coming into the company. He'd come here with, I think, a wrist injury, a hand injury, something like that. I remember when we covered the Grenade, early on in the Grenade, we covered NWA 89. Barry was working with some sort of a hand wrist injury there. That's why they did an angle with Luger and Wyndham right before he came over. I think there's even maybe some surgery happening here before he actually begins working here for Vince. I don't know that the injuries pile up enough that that's what's keeping him out of the ring here. We know it will later on in his career off and on, but Barry had the look. He had the Titan look when he left Crockett or Turner or whatever you want to call it there. At that point, he had gotten tan. He'd gotten a little more in shape, shall we say, to be fair. The slick back hair, the different tire, the 5 o'clock shadow. He very much looked like a badass heel. He wasn't just a horseman anymore. He was his own man, I think, there at the beginning of 1989. So when he came over to the WWF, it was new look Barry. I was on board. I was like, oh, man, this is going to be a big deal. He was always a big deal to me. Easily in the Intercontinental world, if not Hogan, could Barry Windham have easily mastered that title belt run. Gorilla here putting it on commentary during this match, putting it over, saying that Barry Windham's in the same league as Mr. Perfect and Bret Hart. And they were basically the next guys up. They were attempting to give Bret the boost. And obviously they're giving Curt Hennig the boost here and kind of classifying Barry, who I would say a level above them as far as what he's accomplished at this point. But I think Gorilla's trying to get over the point that these are the workhorses, moving forward. These are the future moving forward. And it's funny that Hennig and Bret are working each other all summer. And according to Bret, that he was beginning to work with Windham for the fall. And they never got to do that because Windham was in and out so much. And that would have been a hell of a bunch of matches to look at. But Bret obviously going to be pushed back into a tag team instead.
Yeah, just one of those what ifs that, we get to talk about what if and, just didn't happen, unfortunately.
And like you mentioned the stuff with Blackjack and Kendall that's to come later on here, but something ain't right in the ring as well. It's almost like watching Butch Reed in his run here, where he just has no ability to do anything. This entire match is punching and kicking and a superplex that gets the win here. I did notice, and even the announcer's pointing this out. Now, usually when you do the superplex, the guy's legs on the outside of the ropes. Becker's legs are placed on the inside of the ropes. And Tony, Gorilla, everybody, they're going to do it. Barry's going to give it to him the hard way, like the way he did the move there. And so I thought that was really interesting. I don't know why he did that. He certainly had the opportunity to switch the legs. I don't know if Becker pissed him off. I don't really know what the deal was there. I'm trying to think, from my working experience, what that would, it would be harder to deliver the move, even for the person giving it. I don't know that you're going to land any differently at the end of the day, though. So I'm not really sure what that was all about. Now, the match only goes 1:45, and Barry's one of those guys, again, I would have expected the 3 or 4 minute match with Barry Windham. He knows how to work. But also, I don't think he did a single wrestling move in this entire match outside of the superplex.
Yeah, it's going back to last month, Big John Studd. I make that parallel very much so. It's like you forgot to work, or you're just maybe you're taking the cheap way out in that way. But it's just, yeah, Barry Windham was just a weird time, and he does get back in the early 90s.
Oh man,
in WCW, where I think he kind of turns back the clock a little bit, but then after that, it's just he's not the Barry Windham of 1986, 87, 88. That's not our Barry Windham right now.
Well, it's unfortunate. We have one more match this week for Challenge, though. It's the Hart Foundation battling Jake Milliman and Boris Zukov, and I believe this might be Brett and Anvil's first match back together on syndicated TV. So the Hart Foundation are back together, it would appear, after a solo run for both guys over the summer, and that's really unfortunate. Now, when they did it in 88, the Anvil was in the doghouse. He was not getting any TV work. He was working house shows and doing jobs to Greg Valentine and other guys they had nothing else for. Brett was getting that first push, working with Bad News, etc. They do it this time, and Anvil does get some TV matches, so maybe not so much in the doghouse, but he also has that match with Randy Savage on NBC, which was pretty damn good. It was a good showcase for Jim Neidhart and what he could do as a singles. Now, was he Randy Savage? Absolutely not, but I thought they structured that match to where Neidhart held his own. He looked competent, and he did the job, rightfully so. He certainly should have in that particular match, but I felt like they could have built off that. I'm not saying he would have got the Brett push, but I felt like they could have easily just utilized Neidhart and kept Brett singles, but probably for the best that we go back to a tag team for now. I think Brett's still missing something.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, Anvil to me always was so integral to the tag team, even though, you see Brett's talent, but you always looked at the Anvil as a part of the Hart Foundation, even though he goes through the Nude Foundation later on. But Brett, I mean, you can go back to, which I will say is probably the greatest match in Saturday Night's Main Event history, which is Savage and Brett in November of '87. And if y'all haven't watched it, seek it out and watch it. Even Brian Bosworth in the front row is happy to see it. But the selling that Savage did and the work that they put into that match is absolutely fantastic. One of my favorite matches, even as a kid, who, we're all work rate now. At that time, it's just the match in general, coming off of, that big angle with Honky Waffle and Savage with the guitar. Yeah. And just the match that they had was just so epic. And you could see the makings of Brett being a singles star. It just took obviously a lot more seasoning and a lot more years to do so. But with Anvil, it was just like making him a single in some cases just didn't seem right because he was so married to the tag team. And I couldn't see that. I don't think a lot of other people could either.
Well, Brett was always the technical guy. He'll tell you he's technical. I mean, the greatest of all time, right? But Neidhart really saved that team when they were the entire first heel run that they had because he was the promo. Brett was not, and I don't know, I would argue Brett never really got good at a promo until he was Brett. Until they just go out there and tell him what you really think, Brett, in 1997. He hit home runs every night, but he was believing what he was saying then. But up until that point, I don't know that Bret Hart ever had a good, great, that sold me like a promo like that. And Neidhart really saved them as heels. I really always thought really entertaining. And as baby faces, he was certainly an anchor in some of the great spots he could do. Some of the teamwork they did where Anvil would use Bret as a projectile, or where Bret would slingshot Neidhart, the dive to the floor, things like that. So they were a great team. That was absolutely opposites attract in regards to their wrestling ability and putting them together. So they're back together again, and I'm happy for it. The match gets going here against Milliman, the Milkman from the AWA, and Boris Zukov, who is currently Nikolai-less here in the summer of '89. We get an insert poem from the Genius as he refers to the Hart Foundation as losers now that they have ditched that Jimmy Hart. Sure, they had a few wins early on, but nothing since then. Well, they haven't been together for a while, but I can't really say that Lanny's wrong because they haven't been winning as a team, because they haven't been teaming. Lanny, you left that part out. But the match gets going. Referee for this one, by the way, is Ronnie Garvin. Neidhart starts with Boris Zukov as Boris fails to tackle. Neidhart going to plow him over with one of his own and a standing drop kick. Always impressive to see a guy built like that with a standing drop kick. And Boris wisely taking that bump and tagging in the Milkman as the Hitman comes in, landing that patented backbreaker. Slingshot splash back in by Neidhart, but Neidhart pulling the Milkman up. Yeah, baby. Wait a minute here. Now, when Bravo did it, pulling the guy up, and Garvin was refereeing, that was a no-no. When Neidhart does it here, I think Ronnie kind of enjoyed it. So maybe a little bit of bias here on this officiating.
Yeah, impartiality be damned when it comes to baby faces and heels.
Well, it is an Anvil thing to do. That is something a babyface Neidhart would do, is just continue to brutalize the opponents. Textbook vertical suplex here by Brett. A second standing drop kick by the Anvil. And then they finish it off. Going to give the Milkman a heart attack. Gets the win here from the Hart Foundation. 3 minutes, 4 seconds. And post-match, Boris Zukov shoving Garvin from behind. Now, normally when you get shoved from behind, you turn around, you go, hey, what are you doing? Nope, Ronnie Garvin doesn't even hesitate. He knows it's Boris, and he doesn't give a shit. Ronnie Garvin turns around, boom, hand of stone immediately. Lays Boris out flat and cold there in the center of the ring. Ronnie Garvin leaving on his own. The Hart Foundation going over. Boris Zukov left to the pigeons or whatever may come and scoop up the rest of his body. But something tells me that, Jack Tunney's going to have a thing or two to say to Ronnie Garvin next week. He keeps getting really handsy with these wrestlers out here.
Yeah, no, I mean, we foreshadowed it when we were talking about superstars, where it's this iteration of Ronnie Garvin is not ready for this world to continue quite yet. But for the most part, it's just, like I said, moving the story along to where it's like get his comeuppance with Greg Valentine at some point.
I loved Ronnie Garvin for the fact that he didn't take any shit, man, and the knockout punch. And it was fun, even though I thought it was silly that he was a referee, I still liked the fact that we had a referee that could stick up for themselves. So that was always cool, because you always wanted to see a referee fight. Maybe they shouldn't have, like when Ric Flair would do the comedy spots with the referees shoving him, Tommy Young shoving him down. I mean, as a kid, you pop for it. As you watch Rick do it over and over and over, it's a little bit redundant and a little too much. But to actually fight back and be and believably fight back, I like that. That they can stick up for themselves. And I thought they were onto something there. Maybe if Ronnie had retired, maybe they could have just kept him on as a referee. I don't know if Ronnie would have wanted to do that, but that's something they could have pursued later on. I mean, when he actually left the company. But we close out this week's Wrestling Challenge, another no-holds-barred clip. This time it's Stan Hansen in the Taney Weiner segment, one of my personal favorite segments, Stan Hansen in the no-holds-barred movie. And we learn next week on Wrestling Challenge, we're going to see the Superfly in action along with Brutus Beefcake, the Brainbusters, Intercontinental Champion Rick Rude, Tag Team Champions Demolition, Hillbilly Jim going to be here, boy howdy, and Mr. Perfect. A lot of those names you'll notice we saw in Superstars this week. They'll be on Challenge next week.
We keep trundling on through our summer to SummerSlam.
As this week, a lot of driving force, not so much in a lot of the storylines, but rather the Gorilla Monsoon Bobby Heenan dynamic. A lot of the program was really dedicated to Gorilla and Bobby arguing, and Tony kind of being a dick to Bobby as well. And that's going to continue right now into WWF Primetime Wrestling, July 10th, 1989. Hosted here, Primetime Wrestling by Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan. For now, couple exclusive matches before we talk about what unfolds on the actual episode. We're going to see Akeem, the African Dream, defeat Chris Allen with a big splash, taped June 28th in Rochester at the War Memorial, and 2 matches, apparently, in Rochester. We got 3 matches here, from Rochester. Coco Beware defeating Greg Valentine by a reverse decision. Here it comes. Got to continue the story on Primetime, which is never a good thing. You don't want your story told on Primetime. But here it is, Greg Valentine basically stealing a win over the Birdman, using the ropes for leverage, when referee Ronnie Garvin comes out and says, hey. He tells the official what happened, that Valentine cheated to win. And the match is reversed and given to the Birdman. Post-match, it looked like Valentine was going to come after Garvin, but Coco putting a stop to that with a dropkick, exiting the hammer from the ring. So we're continuing the storyline on Primetime. And a lot of people go, what's wrong with that, Ray? I mean, Raw's on USA. Well, if it didn't happen on syndicated TV, in Vince's eyes, a lot of times it didn't even happen, or it didn't matter.
Yeah, this is the time frame, and we had talked about this earlier in the year, where earlier prime times were just taking house show matches from the Garden, Boston Garden, Spectrum. Now the Spectrum and Boston Garden are no longer a thing. You're just grabbing matches from a Superstars or Challenge taping or a Saturday Night Main Event taping. So it's like you're getting, I shouldn't say less, but it is the lesser of the clod here. So you're just getting these kind of matches, and I think they're more leaning on, especially this episode with the Heenan and Monsoon angle.
You ain't kidding. Maybe the worst feature match in primetime history. Hillbilly Jim defeating Boris Zukov with a big boot. It's our feature match. I've seen they've had some matches where I'm like, I don't want to watch this, but I don't know if they've had one this far down the totem pole as their big main event, if you will. But I'll say this much, as someone who watched primetime every week as a kid, not only did I love the Gorilla Bobby dynamic, it was like my comfort food for every Monday or Tuesday night, depending on when it came on, before I went to bed and got up for school the next day. It was like it sung me to sleep almost in many ways. And so we know we're going to talk about what happens with that in just a moment. But at the same time, they could fall back on that. A lot of people fast forward the promos and watch the wrestling. But on primetime, you could fast forward the wrestling and listen to Gorilla and Bobby. At least I could all night long. And unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. Now, this is just a brief hiatus, but they're going to tell a story here tonight. And it's been going on for a few weeks now. And years of bickering, yes. But all of a sudden, Bobby's becoming far more angry and hostile and feeling taken advantage of and not being treated as the true host of primetime wrestling. So they kick off the show and immediately already arguing. Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon, take me back to, you just recently watched some of this. Tell me some of the things that stuck out for you here and the way they handled this ongoing saga throughout this episode.
Yeah, no, it starts right away. They step on the opening where it's just like they both talk, where you would get the obligatory, I'm your host, Bobby the Brain Heenan, and blah, 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 and whatever else. And it just it's like a runaway train from there. And it's just like, and Monsoon states that, there's no Heenan family members on this program. He's like, what? And it just gets more and more contentious. And the times where you think Gorilla is going to break, he doesn't. And it's really well done. And then also, I think the only time he does break, and it still is genuinely funny, Heenan states, we both can be hosts. And Monsoon just fires back like, I'm a host now, and he kind of laughs. And that's like the only time I think he gets close to breaking, or at least breaks a little bit. But for the most part, it's just, it continually just moves until probably, like, I'd say about 2/3 through the episode. And then obviously Heenan just says, I've had enough. And just Monsoon antagonizing him, and Heenan being kind of like the kid who's just like, well, fuck you. I'm not doing anything really that special. So why the hell do you want me to talk? And then, and then Monsoon states, why don't you get your own show? And then Heenan starts to smirk, and then the wheels start to turn as the episode keeps going.
Yeah, the plot thickens, absolutely. Bobby's stating early on, too, that I'm talented enough to have my own show. And then Gorilla later on says, why don't you go do your own show then, Brain? Get out of here. We don't need you. You can be replaced, I believe he tells him at one point. So at some point in the show, back in the studio, Heenan and Monsoon arguing again as Heenan finally leaves, tells Monsoon to fill his chair with somebody else. I'm not coming back. Screw you guys. Hem is what he does here. Gorilla Monsoon tells us he'll be back. So even Gorilla kind of like make an excuse for, but by the next commercial segment, Gorilla Monsoon on the phone talking to somebody. I'm not really sure who it is, but he's informing them that we have a seat vacant now on the primetime set, and the storyline will continue on. Heenan finally, though, coming back into the studio, letting us know that he's stopping by after a meeting with the USA Network. Boy, was that quick. And he's going to have his own TV show starting right here next week, and nobody else on the crew will have anything to do with it. Bobby Heenan then throwing stuff around, taking his signs with him, and that's pretty much going to be it. So the WWF thought for the Bobby Heenan-filled primetime edition. We know he's going to be replaced next week with somebody different. But it was kind of a sad day for me because I kind of bought into it. But I also thought, well, it's Bobby. He might be back next week. What was he talking about? Very abrupt, though, that they randomly announced that there's going to be what we will find out to be a Bobby Heenan show.
Yeah, no, the famed Bobby Heenan show, which does last about a couple weeks.
4 weeks.
I think, when I was a little bit older, because obviously I didn't see this live, but for the most part I think as far as the WWF fan was like kind of the holy grail if you didn't see it, where you'd have this little run of Bobby Heenan, because, I mean, I don't know how many people did not like Bobby Heenan when it came to any sort of commentary or anything on primetime, for the most part. But, it's a nice little run, and, and it goes to Bobby's kind of comedy stylings and everything else. And we do find out later USA Network was not happy. I think that's probably another reason why it was very abrupt.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, I believe it was, and we'll touch on it too when we get to that episode, but I believe it's after the second week, USA Network calls Vince, goes, what the fuck are you doing? And Vince is like, okay, we'll pull the plug, but let me take it off, organic. Like, we don't want to just yank it. We want to tell a story with it or something. So they get 2 more weeks out of it, if I remember correctly. So it was basically doomed from the jump. And it was very much very low budget talk show, to say the least. But I'm going to have fun with that over the next 4 weeks here on The Grenade. I promise you guys that much. If nothing else, we'll talk a little bit more about Bobby Heenan. And it's going to give us the debut of Jameson. Of all the people, will make his debut. A lot of people are not fans of that character, and I don't know that I ever cared for it. Probably because they eventually stick him with the Bushwhackers. That really didn't help him any, for me anyway. But yeah, we're going to talk about the Bobby Heenan show in future weeks. But I talked about as a kid, you didn't really believe what Bobby said. Oh, he'll be back next, because he already left a couple weeks ago. He walked off the set. He'll be back. But then Gorilla makes a comment at the end of the program. Well, signed, sealed, and delivered. Done deal, guys. Starting next week, I have a brand new co-host coming here to Primetime Wrestling. And that's what I knew. Well, Gorilla doesn't lie. And it sounds like they've already filled his spot. So what is this show that Bobby Heenan's going to do? I can't wait to see what that is. And who the hell does Gorilla Monsoon have coming in? Who does he have in store for us as the new co-host? Now, I'm going to go on record as we close out this episode and say that I was never a fan of what transpires next. And I was never so happy that I saw somebody attack Santa Claus to get himself kicked off the primetime.
Yeah, no, it's just, for the most part, I mean, yeah, I don't know what they tried to accomplish, or maybe that was the way of just getting Piper back into the good graces of the viewing public and everything else, because, you know, we had stated he hadn't signed after WrestleMania. Right. It was just a one-off. We thought it was a one-off, and then he just kind of slowly just hangs around, but you're not seen. And then it, like I stated in the last episode, it's great value Roddy Piper. It's, you know, 7-Eleven Roddy Piper, however you want to look at it, where it's not your 84, you know, your initial WWF run or even Mid-Atlantic or anything before then. It's just very homogenized Roddy Piper.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a very different world for Hot Rod. But that is who will fill the void that Bobby Heenan leaves. Now, Bobby Heenan's show gets canceled in 4 weeks, but Roddy Piper will remain on for months to come, and we're going to see some fun stuff there with Hot Rod and Rick Rude eventually anyway. So we got that much to look forward to. But Piper not really going to get involved with physical action a whole lot until after SummerSlam, and he's going to have some fun here on Primetime. Even if I was a little upset that he was replacing Bobby Heenan, imagine that, Roddy Piper replacing the Brain and being upset about it. But I was, even as a kid, I love the Gorilla Brain. It wasn't so much just Bobby Heenan, it was the Gorilla and Brain together that I absolutely loved, and it was just like a part of my life, for whatever you want to call it. So, you know, obviously when it goes away permanently later, I was not a happy camper. Hated that damn reinvent of TNT, basically, is what they were trying to do, or some shit. But yeah, but that's where we are for right now. We've seen the end of Gorilla and Bobby together for a while. They'll be back together. Don't worry, guys. Don't fret. But we're going to wrap it up this week. Matt, I want to thank you so much for covering another week in July 89 here with me, man.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. This is always a great time to come and reminisce during a great time in the world of the WWF. And, you know, I can throw a few Jesse-isms. You know, the pleasure, of course, was all yours and everything else. But one of my favorites, you know, it comes to mind when it comes to Jesse. I think it was during after the No Holds Barred music video, and Vince was chastising him about singing, because obviously he would always have the line Jesse Lee Ventura as on Tickling the Ivories on the Honky Tonk Man theme song. So he goes, I only play the piano, McMahon. So thanks again as always, and look forward to maybe some more stops on the Grenade as time goes on, but thanks as always.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Pleasure to have you guys. Another special edition of the Grenade. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please leave us some feedback. Let us know what you thought. I had a blast, man. I certainly appreciate it anytime we can get somebody on here to talk a little old school wrestling from my childhood. It's great memories for me, and hopefully it's great memories for you. If you guys are living it for the first time, hopefully you're enjoying what you're hearing here. And we'll be back very soon. I encourage everybody in the meantime to stop over to the patreon.com/WrestleCopia. Check it out. All access tier, VIP tier, ultimate tier. All sorts of great video casts and research and stories and things unfolding there as well. But until next time, Ray Russell for Matt Crowder saying, from pillar to post and coast to coast, you pull the pin and I'll pick up the pieces right here on the Wrestling Memory Grenade. We'll see you next week. Don't miss it. Be there.
Santana, I'm upset. How dare you? First you walk on my interview with Brother Love, and then, worst of all, you slap my manager, Slick. Well, Slick, don't you worry. I'm gonna teach that Santana some manners.
You know, now the people can see what I've been trying to say all along. The man is totally jealous of you. He can't stand for you to get just a little bit of the spotlight, but I know you're gonna get revenge for me, brother.
Martel, you're upset because I interrupted you with Brother Love. Fine. I've slapped your manager away. Now it's gonna be you that I'm coming after, face to face, no sneak attacks. I'm coming after you with all my energy, Martel. Arriba!